think that, in some ways, because the physical pain is sort of comes with the territory and there's almost sort of a badge of honor that comes with it, right? If you, not that you want to get hurt, right? But if there's, you're a guy, you're playing the sport and you can get hurt and you can get through it. But on the behavioral health sort of emotional pain element, there hasn't been a whole lot of players that have been really outspoken about it. Maybe Dak, a couple of guys here and there. Do you feel that among the league, it's still somewhat of a stigma or a barrier to say, hey, I might be struggling with something and I could use some behavioral health sort of intervention? Is that stigma or barrier getting better, or is it there?
I mean, it's an excellent point. And so first of all, I'll start with the obvious, but I'll come to the point. What are our players? Our players are people, okay? And all people in our society at the current time, in my opinion, regardless of background, socioeconomic, racial, gender, any of those things, there is a stigma to admitting to behavioral health. There's a reason we call it behavioral health instead of mental health. And mental health was a better step than mental illness, right, and all of that pejorative feel to that. And there's a link, I think, to burnout, but I'll try to make that connection if I can without getting too far afield, which is to, sorry, beast in the background there, which is to be able to say, let's, to the extent we can, given the fact that these are men, businessmen playing football, and have been raised, to their 20s with that stigma, not because of them, but because of societal issues around that. Right. Because there's something about saying that you say, I'm not good enough. I'm not, I don't have enough resiliency, adaptive capacity. It's eating at me. It's bothering me. I will say in the locker room, many of the clubs that we had prior to our CBA insisting on behavioral health had their own team clinicians, had mental health counselors that were available. And yet those their rooms, their offices would have, blinds. And as a psychiatrist, you can appreciate this. Like, okay, I could go in there, but I don't want to see anybody to see me in there. And, a position coach walks by and sees you in there. It's like, wait a minute, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? And I think we're both in the, certainly in the NFL, but also in society, removing that sense that there's a stain, a stigma, a problem, a deficiency, a lack of ability to cope, and understanding that there's really just a really broad capacity, like that bell-shaped curve again, and encouraging players to say, listen, if you weren't mentally tough, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have gotten here. All the things that you went through. Now let's talk about, okay, let's try to make it a little better. I'll give you an example. Been 10 years ago, but there was a young kicker that came in, I won't say who, really a great kicker and place kicker, and he terrific, absolutely. And I was at training camp and I was watching him, and man, this guy could just nail it. And all of a sudden the head coach walks up and he starts missing, and the coach goes away, and he's almost hyperventilating. And I said, what's the problem? He goes, being around that guy makes me really nervous. And I said, you need to think about something. He's going to be at every game. And it's funny because later he came to me and he said, that changed everything for me. Wow. Once I realized, you know what, I got to get used to it, because there's not going to be a football game for this club that the head coach isn't at. And so there's a lot of times it's not that they're not tough. It's just they need a way of looking at things, a lens through which you can see things more clearly. It's like when you go to the ophthalmologist and that 4-quadrant diopter comes in, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is more sharp. And I think what we have to do as professionals is provide them with as sharp a lens as we can to help them through, so that they've got the vision to say, okay, I see the path. I see how it can be done. Mental visualization is something certainly kickers do. I mean, you see this all the time. It's like, what the hell is this? Oh, that's going to make sure it goes right down the pipes, But there's a ritual that they go through. So